Humanity's mindless actions have polluted the environment and caused global warming, making life difficult for everyone. Polluted air has wiped out almost all natural animals, forcing people to take care of themselves. Real food is hard to find, and people survive on food by big companies. Soylent's new product, Soylent Green, is made from plankton and promises to feed everyone. But right now, there isn't enough of it. Frank Thorne is a detective in New York. He lives with his old friend, Saul Roth, who used to work as a police analyst. Saul has a great memory and keeps a police reference library to help Thorne. Today, they talk about a recent murder. Saul complains that Thorne expects too much from his notes, saying it is not an archive. Suddenly, the power goes out. Saul remembers the past when food was real and electricity was reliable. He thinks people have ruined nature. Now everything is dying. He rides a bicycle that generates power for their apartment while Thorne leaves for work. Thorne steps over homeless people sleeping on the stairs of his building. The streets are full of old cars that now serve as homes for the poor, places for criminals to meet. In one car, a young man named Gilbert gets a metal meat hook and instructions for a job from a criminal. Meanwhile, in the apartment of a rich man named William Simonson, his girlfriend Shirley plays on a fancy machine. She is happy with her success and thanks the machine. When the security guard Fielding comes to tell her it is time to leave, they go to a store. The vendor sells them expensive products and shows them a beef tenderloin, something most people cannot afford. At the same time, Gilbert uses the hook to sneak into the rich residential complex and goes to Simonson's apartment. Simonson sees him but does not panic or call for help. Gilbert apologizes and explains that his bosses can no longer trust Simonson to stay quiet. Simonson agrees and says what Gilbert is about to do is necessary for God. Gilbert then raises the hook and hits Simonson on the head. Later, Thorne arrives at Simonson's apartment to investigate. He talks to the caretaker, claims the camera broke, and then meets Shirley. Thorne ignores her and examines Simonson's body, looking for clues. Finds whiskey, beef, and other foods that he cannot have. Fielding tells Thorne about their shopping trip, and Thorne enjoys washing his hands in warm water. He collects the papers, toiletries, and food into a bag from Simonson's bedroom. Shirley is upset, thinking that if she had stayed, Simonson would still be alive. Fielding tells her she might have died too. Thorne later questions Shirley and looks at her hands. He doubts her sincerity, but she insists she would not risk her job. She feels she belongs in the apartment, waiting for the next tenant. He wants to keep her. Frank Thorne is a detective who steps over the homeless without a second thought and eats food he can't afford while investigating a murder. He seems more interested in his own comforts than in helping others. Related, now Thorne knows that the sanitation crew has arrived. He tells them to take Simonson to the dump, but they say that Simonson will be burned. Shirley is sad because she remembers her grandmother's funeral. Thorne takes some things and leaves. He goes back to the apartment, steps over the homeless people, and gives Saul things he has not seen in a long time: clean paper, soap, and pencils. He also shows Saul a secret report about the ocean that he found in Simonson's apartment. Saul is very happy to see vegetables and cries when he sees meat. The next day, Thorne goes to work. His boss, Lieutenant Hatcher, is not happy that the case is not solved. Thorne thinks that someone was paid to kill Simonson. Nothing was stolen, there was no security, and the killer used a meat hook instead of a gun to make it look like a robbery. Thorne decides to find the bodyguard. He follows the man to his girlfriend Marta's apartment. Thorne looks around and sees a spoon on the table that has strawberry jam on it. He thinks that this is too nice for the bodyguard's girlfriend. Thorne goes home and eats dinner that Saul made from the food he brought. They eat food that they haven't eaten in a long time. Saul reads the books that Thorne brought and learns about Simonson's life and his partner Santini, who is now the governor of New York. They made the Soylent project, which made a lot of money. Thorne calls the lieutenant and tells him what he learned. He does not know that the person who gave Gilbert the meat hook is in his office. Shirley has a party in Simonson's apartment. Thorne comes and asks Shirley questions. Shirley says that Simonson did not tell her anything, but she knows Santini. Simonson had been acting strange lately, and he was even going to church. The building manager comes in and is rude to the girls. Thorne tells him to leave. Shirley asks Thorne to stay the night, take a bath, and eat breakfast. She does not like to be alone and is happy with Thorne. Thorne agrees. They take a shower together. Later, Thorn goes to the church where Simonson went. He sees a dead woman with her child tied to her. Thorn takes the child and brings her into the church, but there are many sick and hungry people there. Thorn talks to the priest who heard Simonson's confession. The priest only remembers that Simonson confessed something bad. Thorn tells the lieutenant that the case is not a robbery, but the lieutenant says it is. Thorn does not agree and is sent to patrol the streets. Santini, the governor, hears that Thorn is not stopping. Santini wants to kill Thorn. Fielding goes to confession. Thorn is on the street where people get Soylent. There are many people there, and they are angry because there is no more Soylent. The police try to stop the people from rioting. A killer tries to kill Thorn, but he misses and kills a woman. People start to riot. The killer tries to hurt Thorn, and Thorn tries to catch him. Killer dies under a machine. Thorn thinks that Fielding is part of the plan against him. Thorn waits for the bodyguard at his girlfriend's apartment. They fight, and Thorn says that the bodyguard killed his boss. Thorn tells the bodyguard to stop following him. Thorn goes to see Shirley. Solomon shows a report about the ocean to some scientists. Shirley puts a bandage on Thorn and offers to go somewhere with him. But Thorn does not know where to go. There is hunger everywhere, and the earth is dying. The girl is upset because the new tenant is moving in today, but the policeman thinks she will like him. Meanwhile, the scientists tell Saul about their research, and it is very scary. Simonson, who works for Soylent, learns about it and can't handle it. The company knows he might talk, so they kill him. Now they need to find evidence before going to the Supreme Council. Saul is so shocked that he wants to die. A new owner moves into Simonson's apartment. He meets Shirley and thinks she is pretty. Saul goes to a place where he can die, leaving a note for Thorn. The policeman goes to see his friend. Saul is answering the manager's question. He likes orange and classical music. The man goes to a private room where two young people help him get undressed. He lies down on a couch. Music starts playing, and pictures of nature that don't exist anymore appear on a big screen. Thorn goes to the place where Saul is. He tries to find Saul's room, but the doors are closed. He can only watch his friend's last moments through a window. He watches the beautiful pictures with Saul and is amazed by the lost beauty of nature. Saul sees him and is happy to say goodbye to his friend. He tells him about his discovery and asks him to find the evidence and tell the truth. After Saul dies, Thorn follows the stretcher that is carrying his body. He sneaks into the basement where the bodies are put into big trucks. He climbs onto one of them. The truck goes to a place that processes human bodies. Thorn watches as the bags are unloaded and taken inside the factory. He goes inside and finds a conveyor belt that takes the bodies to a lower level. Thorn follows them and sees that Soylent Green is made from processed human bodies. The guards see him and he has to run away, killing some guards. He goes to the city and tries to call his precinct, but the line is busy. Then Thorn calls Shirley's apartment and asks her to stay with the new tenant. Hatcher is angry at Thorn for what he did, but Thorn doesn't have time to talk before he is attacked by the company's men. The man shoots back and runs to the church, even though he is hurt. Fielding follows him. He looks for the policeman among the people in the church and sees blood drops. Follows them, but Thorn attacks first. They fight and people wake up and scream. The policeman kills his enemy with a knife he picked up from the floor. Hatcher finally shows up. Thorn tells him everything he found out and begs him to tell the people in charge that the ocean is dying and that Soylent Green isn't made from plankton anymore. He says Soylent Green is actually made from people, and the company is raising people like animals. Hatcher promises to do something about it. Paramedics take Thorn away, but he keeps yelling that Soylent is made from people and asks Hatcher to stop it. The movie ends with the same pictures that were shown to Solomon Roth before he died.